Let's do this. The Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful and for the faithful. I'm David Staples here today with Bruce McCurdy. Hey, Bruce.
Hey, David. How you doing today?
Good, Bruce. Excellent. I've been listening to the audiobook of the James Clavell novel Shogun from the 70s.
Oh, yeah.
I read it as a teenager, and am I ever enjoying it as a 61-year-old now? It's it is such a fantastic story about just this. It's about the first Englishman who went to Japan in about 1600. Right? So highly recommend it if you have Audible. And today's game was an interesting game. The Oilers won 4-3 in overtime. It was a strange game, Bruce. It was a weird one, and we'll get into why that is. But it was very, very, very different in terms of how hockey games unfold, but all's well that ends well for the Edmonton Oilers. How are you doing?
All right. I'll certainly take the 2 points from that affair and move on.
Yeah, they needed it.
Yeah, well, they needed some kind of result.
Yeah.
Sure.
They were going to get the loser point, which was good. And I think they actually played for the loser point today. They shut things down, to say the least, and both teams did. Yep. And maybe they were both playing for the loser point for the entire third period. But anyway. Yep. Bruce, 2 good things, 2 bad things, 2 numbers, 1 conundrum. What's your good thing?
Yeah, I'm actually going to go right back to what we were just talking about. The mature third period that Edmonton played in a tie game. And they didn't make the mistake of opening things up to try and go for it. I thought that, they took care of their own end. I think they gave up only 5 shots, was it, or 6, and none of them particularly dangerous. And I just thought that, the way they were patient with the puck, they moved it out, they dumped it in. And they played Bettman hockey, and that is a double-edged compliment coming from me. But it is a system, and you got to game it. And it's especially effective if you can game it if you are good in overtime and can often win the extra point that gets awarded. But I thought Edmonton needed to get some sort of result from this game, at least 1 point, and they took care of that business first. At least in the third period, they did. And then quickly claimed the second point when the opportunity arose in OT. But overall, I just thought they showed some team patience and maturity down the stretch of this game.
Maybe this is one of the side benefits of the so-called veteran presence when you bring in a newcomer like Corey Perry. You can imagine him coming. I can imagine him coming into the dressing room and the other teams saying, "Hey, welcome to the team. What do you think of us anyway?" And Corey Perry could say, "You know what? You guys have a lot of potential, but you're one of the biggest jokes in the NHL for how you handle the third period and the way you guys failed to get Bettman loser points by not shutting down the opposition, just playing loosey-goosey hockey in the final 10 minutes. It's laughable, man." And maybe because I don't think I've ever seen them play for the loser point. They probably have tried.
Oh yeah, they have, but it's just. I mean, I hate to say it because it's so much less exciting, but just the way the system is rigged, that if you're going to win one, lose one, you're best to do both of those things in overtime than in regulation because you get 1 more point. And so, in the long run, the careful play is the smart play.
The only play that I didn't like in that period, there was about 4 minutes left, and the McDavid line and McDavid had been out there for quite a while already. They were getting tired, and then they iced it, and then there was a face-off of the Oilers zone, and the Oilers were able to get the puck out, which was huge in that moment because it's a Tyler Oilers group. So Leon takes the puck over the blue line, and what does he do? Instead of getting it deep, He throws a backhand pass right across the ice, and I just thought, will you never learn? Like that is the play you don't make in that moment. He got away with it,
It worked, and
but
then they
that
got
was.
off right away.
Do you remember the play? I
Yeah, I
just was.
remember the icing too. It was really unlucky. They sort of shot a soft one out, and the damn puck landed on its edge, and it rolled over the icing line. And flat puck would have died 10 times out of 10 there. And then they did get it, and they worked it out, and they did take it into the Dallas end, and then both guys skedaddled to the bench because I was concerned about the same thing. They'd probably been out there for well over a minute by that time. Anyway, as you say, they got away with it, and the next line got out, and they just took care of business.
They did. Bruce
Protected their goalie.
They did, and I have to say, I gave Leon an 8 in this game. I didn't hold that against him. I thought he was the Oilers' best forward. He was the most dangerous forward on the attack. He was making all kinds of plays. He's a fantastic player, but and he is keeping his. I don't know if I checked actually the shift lengths from the losing streak at the start of the year to now, and there's nothing. You can't really see anything that makes you think they're keeping their shift shorter. But I think in some key moments they are doing better, keeping their shift shorter. All those guys. So I think he is learning, and his defensive play has really picked up. But I didn't like that play. One play that I did like was Leon's winning face-off in overtime, and Evan Bouchard's goal. It was his second goal of the game, and both goals came, I think, on fantastic shots. Bouchard can really slap the puck. He can also really wrist the puck. And both goals were him doing just that. He went top shelf where grandma keeps the cookies, as the legendary skills coach Jim Fleming he likes to say on the first goal. And the second goal was even better because he moved in and against the flow. He shot it back against the flow through a screen of a Dallas player into the far side of the net. It was just an absolutely beautiful shot by Bouchard. Does he have 14 goals now? Is that it?
Yes, he does.
Career high 14 goals. He's probably on his way to 20 goals.
It's on his
this
pace
year,
to
which
about
would be
20,
cool.
22 right now, I think would be the pace.
Bruce, and you're going to get into the power play. I just want to say through that entire 5-on-3 power play, I was thinking, why aren't you setting up Evan Bouchard? They just were not passing it back to him to shoot, although he was wound up and ready to shoot a few times. And it was driving me crazy on that power play. And then finally they did it on the power play in overtime. And apparently I didn't see this, but I think one of the announcers was saying McDavid called for that to happen. That he wanted to fake Bouchard to fake the shot to him. And that was the right play. We just should have seen the right play earlier. They don't use Bouchard's shot enough. And I've remarked on this before, and we saw it again tonight, and that finally they used it in overtime and they scored.
Yeah, well, they used that exact same play on overtime winner. I think it was in Montreal in January. And there was another game that they won earlier that I remember them doing the same thing, and it was and maybe this is the one I'm remembering, where McDavid actually talked to Bouchard before the face-off took place, and the whole idea was for Draisaitl to win the puck back to Bouchard, and for Bouchard to sort of angle towards McDavid and telegraph that he was going to pass to him, and then just kind of back away and leave the guy who was trying to cover off the pass in his dust and shoot from the slot. And he scored and won that game too. And at this time, it was basically that same play.
That's a grade A shot for the Oilers.
Oh, yeah.
When he shoots from the circles, anywhere around the circles, Bouchard, it's a grade A shot, I think, because he's a fantastic shooter of the puck. And he creates grade A shots as much as maybe, there's a handful of NHL defensemen who can do that. McCarr, Quinn, him, a few others, just with the strength of his shot. And they've got to figure out a way to get the one-timer going on the power play from the other side. They've got Draisaitl on the one side, they've got to figure out a way to have Bouchard rotate down a bit more now and then. And from a similar spot as Draisaitl's shooting, maybe not way down low, but a little, more classic one-timer turf where Ovechkin stands. Shoot from there, Bouchard, and I think it'll be successful.
Yeah, well, he's part of it too. Is he's feeling it again, and I've noticed in the years that he's been here, he's had stretches where he's just not shooting the puck successfully, and there was a stretch like from he had a run of 7 games where he had only 6 shots on net. That was from games 41 to 47. And now the last 4 games is like 5, 5, 3, and 5, 18 shots in 4 games compared to 6 and 7 games. Like it's just, he's all of a sudden feeling his oats again, and he's ripping her. And 2 goals to show for his game today. And in fact, in the last 3 games, he's had 6 points, 3 goals and 3 assists. And, and his offense had kind of dried up before that. So
yeah.
It's nice to see him deliver, because the full, he's going to always pick up assists here and there with his passing, but the full meal, Evan Bouchard, is goals and assists. And I've always thought he's going to be a consistent every year double-digit goal scorer, and there's every chance he's going to be a 20-goal scorer, 15 for sure to 20. On an annual basis, because he does have such a wicked shot, and because the other team has to defend against more than just the shot, because I know he can make deadly passes as well. So he's a pretty lethal offensive force.
He's now got 50 points in 51 games.
Nice.
So I predicted he might get 90. That's kind of the upper end, I think, for him. He'd have to get obviously 40 points in 31 games, which is unlikely at this point, but you never know.
He's sure on pace for 80, though.
He's sure on pace for having a point a game this year, which would be fantastic. Excuse me, Bruce, your bad thing.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the power play that won the game for the Oilers. So let's take the edge off before I start. But in regulation, they had 3 power plays, including a 2-man advantage, 5-on-3 advantage for 1 minute and 3 seconds. And on those 3 power plays combined, they couldn't get a single shot on net. And 5-on-3 for 103 seconds, come on. You got to be able to get the puck, into the slot and direct something on the net. The goaltender is supposed to be the best penalty killer on the other team, not a bystander. But Oettinger didn't have to make a save because Edmonton wasn't able to. They got 1 shot from the dot. Leon let go a really good wrist shot and hit the post, so that, but it wasn't on net. And otherwise, it just seemed like the 3 Stars were outworking the 5 Oilers and just getting in lanes, and Oilers were content to keep it on the outside. They had Bouchard and Draisaitl doing back and forth, like each of them expected the other guy to shoot. Neither one of them would. There was, and the puck got cleared out of the zone 2 or 3 times. When you got 5-on-3, you have to overwhelm them. When the puck goes loose into the corner, there's got to be 2 you on 1, or even 3. You've got 2 extra guys. You got to win those pucks and battle for them and want them. And it just seemed like it was too mechanical and not very focused. And then, of course, after I spent much of the game sort of bitterly complaining about that wasted opportunity, it took them almost 7 seconds to set up a lethal game-winning shot on an overtime power play. So what do I know? But what I do know is I wasn't happy with that 5-on-3.
I thought McDavid was rushing it, Bruce. I thought he was pressing and trying to force things that were not there. And that was the problem with it. So instead of, you can methodically kind of pass the puck around and get a great shot on the 5-on-3. Mm-hmm. Connor was just charging around and charging into the slot a few times. And I don't think it was needed. And I think that was the issue. And it's the same problem on my bad thing, which is the penalty kill. What I've been seeing in recent games, and we saw it again tonight, I think, is impatience, over aggression and impatience. So the first power play goal against, it's a nothing play. They're just coming up the ice. And Ekholm, all of a sudden, he decides he's going to charge up the ice into the neutral zone and take on 2 Dallas Stars on the attack. And then
on the board.
on the boards, to make matters worse, Vinny Desharnais says, well, that was such a bad idea from Ekholm. I better do it too. And he charges up there and he gets burnt. So it's a 2-on-1 down low, and the one defender is a forward, Bruce, on the penalty kill. It's poor Matthias Janmark. And they charge in and get a wicked shot. And then the rebound, charge in 2-on-1. The rebound, Connor Brown, meanwhile, is now the second defenseman. And he's kind of gone to sleep a little bit on the wheel. And he's not looking over his shoulder at his man. He's doing a bit of puck watching. And that guy goes in and scores on the rebound shot. So, but Ekholm and Desharnais on that play were completely, utterly out to lunch because they were impatient and they were over aggressive. And as I've been saying, cavalier. And they've got to play a more disciplined, I would say. I'm not asking for like a lack of aggression or just more disciplined, more patient, making the right reads and the less risky reads, because it's one risky read, after another that is leading to these troubles. Most of the troubles, not all of them. On the second power play goal against, right at the end of the third period, it was nothing like that. It was just a bad play by the goalie. He got a shot and he couldn't. It was a grade B shot kind of from outside, and he couldn't handle it. He couldn't smother it. Couldn't put it in the corner. He put it right next to the net near the goal line, and someone just came by and tucked it in. Those kinds of goals against will happen. And Calvin Pickard, actually, I would have given him a 7 in the game for a good game if he hadn't made that play. He had a good game, but that was completely on him, I thought. I mean, Desharnais let the outside shot go, so you might say, oh well, he's part of the chain of events. But Calvin Pickard was the mistake there. But that happens to every team, where you're just going to get the puck falling in the wrong place at the wrong time. That first goal against, though, they should put together a reel, sit down with the PKers, because we could identify them 4 or 5 or 6 of the goals against on the opposition power play, where it's been the same thing. Oilers running around impatiently trying to shut it down when it's not there to be shut down, and they're getting beat because of it.
Yeah, well, this one was especially egregious in that generally you don't want your defenseman going too far outside of the dots in terms of the width of the ice. You don't want him chasing plays necessarily all the way into the corner on the penalty kill. You give him the perimeter, and you only chase into the corner if you think you can get it and clear it, right? Or there's a reason to tie someone up or something. But generally, you want to control the middle of the ice between the dots. And here, both defensemen went all the way to the same sidewall, one right after the other. And Ekholm, I don't know what he was thinking up there in the neutral zone, trying to take on 2 guys. And I mean, the whole thing about penalty killing is, controlling and keeping the play to the outside. And he just got left in the dust there. And then Desharnais trying to clean up the mess just made it worse. And the forwards, I mean, Brown and Janmark were kind of, I don't know what Janmark could have done. Brown, maybe if he'd skated a little harder, he could have caught the guy who scored on the rebound.
He could have, if he had been super aware.
Yeah. I mean, he made a bigger mistake on the even strength goal where the guy Harley got right behind him and scored.
That was worse. Yeah, that was worse. So in total, Bruce, the grade A shots where Edmonton just had 10. They've been averaging under Knobloch about 16, and they had 10 grade A shots. Dallas had 11. So that's what the Oilers have averaged against under Knobloch when they've been a much better defensive club than they've previously been. So the Oilers got it together. They got scorched pretty badly with those 6 goals against in the previous game. So I think this was a much better defensive effort by the Edmonton Oilers. It wasn't perfect, obviously, But I do give the Oilers credit for that. And it was a hard game to grade in some ways because there wasn't a lot of good stuff that anyone did. But on the other hand, people didn't do a lot bad. Like they held their own and they played solid defensive hockey. So I do give the Oilers credit for that in this game. What is your number?
Yeah, it has to do with our grade A shots project. And this is the grade A shots allowed, which, as you just mentioned, was 11 by period. 1 against in the first period, 10 against in the second period, 0 against in the third period. And then, of course, overtime, Dallas never even had the puck. So it was just a 20-second period or whatever it was. But 30-second period.
What's going on in these second periods?
Well, I mean, and you can look at shots on goals. Like Dallas had 6 in the first, no goals, 16 in the second, all 3 of their goals. In fact, both teams scored 3, and then 5 in the third. So it's like the second period when they changed ends, it was like they changed decades and it turned into the 1980s for 20 minutes. And then it came back to 2020s button down hockey after that. It was just a very bizarre. It was like the mini games you have in the All-Star game. Each period was like very different. But anyway, the Oilers were very undisciplined in the middle frame, and otherwise they were very strong. And it's kind of strange. So that really stood out to me just in watching the game. But the numbers support it. That defensively, Edmonton was under the gun in the middle frame, and otherwise they didn't allow much against the top scoring team in the NHL.
They did not. So my number, Bruce, is 9, as in 9 minutes left in the game. For the first 51 minutes at even strength, not one member of the second, third, or fourth lines on the Edmonton Oilers at even strength had a grade A shot on net. Not one grade A shot on net for the first 51 minutes of the game at even strength by all of those players, all 9 of those players. Ryan did get one shorthanded, the Nuge setup. But at even strength, Bruce, they got nothing. And the even strength one they got, Fogle, was kind of a marginal grade A, but it was a good wraparound, so we'll give it to him. And it was the only grade A shot that the second, third, and fourth lines got this game. And I didn't see a heck of a lot on the attack from any of them. I mean, Fogle kind of came alive at the end of the game. Ryan McLeod was steaming around the ice all game long, fast. But the Nuge line with Hyman and Kane, it doesn't work, that line. And it will never work because there's really no driver of the play on that line. You do for a great offensive line or a good offensive line, you need that person who's going to carry the mail, carry that puck. And Hyman's good at carrying the puck, so is Nuge, but more in a support role. And Kane's not great at carrying the puck, period. So that line will never work. The McLeod line,
$5 million players, David. Somebody's got to drive it.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
The third line could work as a checking line, right? If they and you could say the third line did its job. They sawed it off. They didn't give up much, and they didn't get much. So that's kind of third line performance. Same with the fourth line. But the Oilers do need to win the Stanley Cup. They need at least 2 scoring lines. You probably use 3, and so this is why. And Knobloch is more often in recent games gone to Draisaitl and McDavid. Just he's increasingly doing this, and it's a failed strategy on the Oilers. That line did well. Mm-hmm. Granted, that line had a good game, and they created the most at even strength on the attack. But Draisaitl and McDavid are going to create anyway on the attack. I can see breaking up the top line of McDavid, Hyman, and Nugent Hopkins. That line hasn't been going. But one of my friends, and I'll name him Dan Woodruff, because my friends sometimes accuse me of stealing their hockey talk ideas without giving them credit. So I'm going to give Dan credit here. Uh, I don't think I do that, but anyway, maybe I do. Anyway, Dan was saying, like, why don't they just switch center, like line mates? And that's a hell of a suggestion.
Flip
Draisaitl with
centers.
Hyman and Nugent Hopkins. I mean, that could work. And then try McDavid with Kane and whoever. I mean, I liked the top line of with Perry. I thought that was a really interesting experiment, and I thought it generally worked. Perry, they have to pay Perry a lot of attention down there, and he draws one or two players, so it opens it up for the two big guys. So if you're going to go with the top two, maybe that's not a bad idea, but you're going to struggle to score at even strength otherwise. And I think we saw evidence of that tonight.
Yeah. Well, Knobloch made a telling comment a while ago, just coming out of the break, or maybe one or two games out of the break, that he says we're not getting much offense unless both McDavid and Draisaitl are on the ice together. Because you might remember in the two games just before the break, it was like McDavid got 7 points and Draisaitl got 6, and they, out of seven goals that they scored in the two games, and they put them together briefly then, and it worked. But he made a comment that most of the Oilers' goals are coming with both of them on the ice, so he's certainly started to default to that, as many other coaches have before. And to say it's a failed strategy, well, they won the game, right? So
they did.
It kind of worked.
It did. It's a failed strategy in terms of you're going to win, obviously, with McDavid and Draisaitl on your team. You're going to win games, but period. But in terms of the playoffs and in terms of winning when it counts, I think it's a failed strategy. I just don't. I don't buy it. I'm not into it. And
did you like the Hart line? This is I got this from Kim McLean in response to my "Never in Doubt" tweet that I like after doubtful games. And Kim McLean said, "Heartline, I like it." And you're right. All three of them won the Hart Trophy. Perry first, and of course McDavid's got 3, and Draisaitl's got 1. So it's not often you see a line where every guy on it has won the Hart.
The most bizarre Hart Trophy victory of this century, other than Taylor Hall, the two ones that are just like, seriously, Corey Perry and Taylor Hall. Maybe, yeah, okay, there's a third one.
2002 beating Jerome McGinley when the one Montreal writer left McGinley completely off his ballot, and then Theodore won in a tie. That guy should have been thrown right out of the PHWA. That was brutal.
That is brutal. That is brutal. The Hart line, I like it though. I like that a lot. And it's I don't have anything against that line. It's just like good luck scoring otherwise though.
Goal and assist +2 for Corey Perry today, and a penalty. He got the original Gordie Howe hat trick, a goal, and assist, and a penalty.
Yeah.
And he was pretty effective, I thought.
He's a good player. I'm liking Corey Perry. Yeah, he is very smart. He's the smartest net front guy I've ever seen on the Oilers.
Yeah, he's canny, he's cagey.
I thought Hyman was really smart, but Corey Perry takes it up to a whole other level, is what I'm going to say. And that's how you score however many goals he scored in the NHL. How many has he scored? I don't even know.
420, 421, I think he had when he got here. He was, the day he arrived, he was the Oilers' career goal scorer.
Oh, that's right. You said that.
And behind McDavid for points, but had everybody else. But let's find out now. He has got 422. So 420 when he came here, and then he's got 2. No, wait, this is out of date. He's probably 423 now, because this is Hockey Reference, won't be updated till tomorrow. So, but now he's scored in 2 consecutive games, and he's got 2 goals and 2 assists in 7 games. Pretty good.
Bruce, tonight's conundrum is, how about that Calvin Pickard? Is he good enough to stay Ken Holland's hand when it comes to making a trade? And today was a big game in assessing that. It's one of the reasons I liked this decision, actually, when in thinking about it. You've got to see how he does against good teams. Yeah. And because he's going to be playing good, he will be counted on in the playoffs. The backup goalie, whoever it is going to be counted on to win at least one game in the playoffs, is my prediction. Maybe 2 or 3 or 4. So you've got to be able to beat good teams. And what do you think? What do you think, Bruce?
Yeah, I like the decision as well. I mean, they've kind of carefully selected his spots that he's gone in. And of course, the schedule's been so light that he literally only played 5 games in the last 2 months. Like his last loss was way back on December 16th, 9 weeks ago. And since then, he's now played 6 games, won all 6. One of the games was against a playoff, at least competitor, Detroit. He won that game in Detroit 3-2 in overtime. And otherwise, he's gotten a steady diet of Anaheim and teams near the bottom of the standings. And so Dallas is anything but that, of course. In fact, they are the highest scoring team in the NHL, which is a serious test for any goalie. And today I thought he was just kind of so-so. He was stopping pucks, but his rebound control was pretty poor. And there was one in the first period. It was a blocker save, and the puck came off his blocker, and it came flying up into the slot. And then from that sort of badly controlled rebound, Edmonton was on the back foot, and they wound up taking a penalty that wound up leading to a power play goal. So we don't record that as a mistake by Pickard, but it did actually lead to the sequence of the goal, which happened actually in the next period. This was late in the first that happened, but the rebound led to the penalty, which led to the goal. And then on the 3-3 goal, that was the one where the rebound got through and dribbled to the side of the net, and Duchesne, I think it was able to pounce on it and tuck it home. And there was a couple other rebounds where I was going, "Oh boy," right through the slot. Lucky that somebody didn't jump on it or it bounced over somebody's stick. And there was a few of those where I'm going, this is an NHL stopper, but with AHL level polish in terms of what he showed in this game. So I'm not sure that it totally answers the question, but I tell you what, they keep throwing the guy out there and he keeps winning games. And I keep thinking Oilers got bigger problems than that. I mean, if they lose their starting goalie in the playoffs, well, chances are they're not going to win the cup. Well, you could say that about almost every team. If Tampa had lost Vasilevsky those 2 years, do you think they would have won those cups?
Colorado
Probably
won,
not.
didn't they? And
Colorado,
and LA
the last
won.
two.
Yeah,
the last two with Colorado, where the Oilers lost to the lefty there that came in because Kemper was hurt. And I'm just trying to remember his name. It's this guy. And then
Russian dude.
Last year it was last year, of course, it was Aiden Hill. One backup replacing another backup. And between the two backups, they won all 16 games. So, I mean, there's different recipes. I wrote a whole post about this, and there's sort of no one sort of sure method other than draft a stud goalie and hope that he stays healthy. Like the 2 cups that Tampa Bay won, their backup goalie never played a minute either year. It was like Vasilevsky just played the entire playoffs, and they had a pretty good backup goalie, but he was sort of play 15 games during the season and wear a ball cap in the postseason, and it worked out just great for them. So Edmonton, if
There's
you want to,
Jack,
what's
Jack
the
Campbell.
answer? Like, how do you get a goalie and fit him under the payroll? And what do you do with Calvin Pickard? Do you just discard him like a hamburger wrapper because you got what you wanted out of it? I think he's in a good spot. Team likes him, and he's playing well enough. And you just can't safeguard against anything. I mean, you lose your top player at any position, you're in trouble, right? Like what happens to the Oilers if, say, Zach Hyman, their top right winger, suffered an injury in the playoffs. Well, who do you replace him with? Well, all of a sudden you're digging deep on the depth chart while you're still in the top six.
Pickard has 7 wins and 2 losses with the Oilers. And
6
his
wins.
9-10 save percentage, best on the team. So, and the wild card in this is Jack Campbell, who at the AHL level now has a 9-11 save percentage in 19 games, and that's after an atrocious start.
819 after the first 3 games.
Yeah.
And since then, he's probably over 930. He's got to be.
Yeah. So and Jack Campbell, what you say whatever you want about him, he had put together 5 or 6 solid seasons as a pro hockey player before he came to Edmonton. That's how he earned that contract. It wasn't based on 1 year. It was based on about 6 years in a row of decent play. And like, who are they going to get? Like, people keep saying Jake Allen from Montreal, and I keep thinking, seriously, like, why would you give up? Why would you do that? Like, is he any better than Pickard? Like, I mean, it just doesn't.
Well, it's not $2.7 million better, which I think is the difference in their cap.
Yeah, that's not happening. They're not going to do that.
Like what incremental gain do you make if you make a trade like that? You give up assets, give up more assets for them to retain. You dump your competent backup goalie to make room for the new guy, and who knows how he fits in. Like, I just don't see a real sort of solid answer. And at this point, I'm wondering if there's really a question. You got 4 goalies in the organization. They are all playing well.
Yeah. Olivier Rodriguez has been playing well all year in Bakersfield. Now, they have a really solid defense in Bakersfield, I think, for the AHL level. I mean, they've got Ben Gleason, Philip Broberg, Cam Dineen, Maximus Wanner, Phil Kemp, Marcus Niemelainen. I think that's an exceptionally.
Noel Hoffenmeyer, they got
Noel Hoffenmeyer.
7 guys. They got 7 guys that are pretty good.
Alex Peters is another one, like a great big guy. So I think that really helps these goalies down there, and which is good. Just like the Oilers' defense goalies were helped during their winning streak by some really solid defensive play. And I'm agreeing with you, Bruce. And tonight's game certainly gives that sense, like, they need help. They do need help in their forward depth. They need to find a few more players with some spark, at least one player, can really play solid two-way hockey. I still think of a third-line center would be my ultimate goal. Now, John Davidson, I guess, has made it clear in his first press conference he's not trading Boone Jenner. But that's the, by reputation at least, that's the kind of player that Edmonton could really use is someone like that on their third line. Or then you might have someone, or maybe that would be your second line center. That's a real possibility as well, if you could get someone that good. So I don't know, Bruce. That's what I'm thinking.
That's what they tried to do last year. They got a third line center, and then they tried to slot him in on the second line and got burned for it.
Yeah, it
didn't work out too well. But I do think that there are certainly guys out there, and ideally, for sure, you want a righty. The one name that keeps coming up is Nick Dowd. 33-year-old right shot forward who is he gets, like, I think he's got 12% offensive zone starts. It's like he takes 8 faceoffs in his own end for every 1 in the offensive end, and he's +9 on the season. Like, it's pretty unreal.
He's Manny Malhotra, the second coming of Manny Malhotra, Bruce.
He's got the Malhotra gig for sure, which is what do they call it? FOGO, face off, get off, win the face off. When the puck comes out, you hit the bench so that the Sedins can come out and score, And that was what Malhotra did in Vancouver, and that's largely Dowd's role. And of course, he's a penalty killer and a right shot face off guy, and a half decent one, 52% on his career. 52.2% on over his time in Washington. And 1.3 million with a year to go. I mean, that's the kind of contract that they could probably certainly afford, or they could probably get bought down if they needed to make it fit. So that's that's shoring up an area of sort of weakness, which is D zone face-offs and penalty killing right now. I mean, 9 shorthanded goals in 5 games is becoming a it's a pretty sore point that needs to be addressed one way or another, because you can't
And
keep giving in 2 a game.
Ryan's at fourth line center, but of course he does play the wing, and he played the wing in the playoffs last year. He's an
Yes.
excellent winger.
Yes.
So
Better
I'm
on
good.
the wing to me.
Yeah, I'm good with that, and it puts the heat on Janmark and Brown, and all the other bottom line wingers to really crank it up. So with Ryan competing for them. Well, Monday afternoon is the next game.
Another afternoon game at Arizona.
Cool. Oh, that's
that
a tough game.
bandbox that they have there.
Yeah, that could be an interesting game. We'll see what happens. All right, Bruce. I think that that just about does her. Thanks for talking today.
Okay, thanks for listening, everyone.
And in the meantime, and in between times, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast.